Hi, I'm Katie Todd, and today I'd like to talk to you about the many faces of fear. We're often in fear, but we don't realise it. Whenever we make choices and decisions from fear, it leads to pain. It leads to our worst expectations being realised. So I thought it might be useful to examine what the many faces of fear actually look like. Now, we all know when we're feeling scared. You know that you're about to go and do a talk that you don't want to, or you have to go and present yourself somewhere and you get the butterflies in the stomach. Okay, we get that. We get when we're scared. Did you know that when you're very bored and disengaged, that is fear? You've withdrawn. Did you know that when you're frustrated and angry, often it is fear that is propelling it? When we're very tired, a lot of time, there can be fear. Anxiety is a sign of fear. For most of us, there are two ways that we go. When we can feel frightened, sometimes people will get distressed and they get sort of needy and they're wanting reassurance. And other people, when they're frightened, can get aggressive and they'll pick fights and they become argumentative. And the person that they're debating or arguing with will not realise that they're actually frightened about something. And you know why they don't realise it? Because the person themselves doesn't know it. Fear can be very nebulous. Fear can be that little tape that's running in your head, going over the failures you've had before and the fear that you can't get what you want. Anger comes out with fear. Anger is always about, I feel powerless and I feel like there's a no in my life and I can't control things, I can't make something happen. Fear is about, I can't be safe, I don't know what to do. When we're frightened, we often have our favourite topics, which should be a clue when you're in your relationship to know that this person is actually frightened. The number one topic that people will go to when they're frightened is money. The lack of money. They'll start to complain about, what are we spending this for? How did you manage to bring up a phone bill like that? Why is the power bill like this time? Did you buy that top? Surely you had enough clothes in the wardrobe already. No, they're not going on the school trip. That's ridiculous. How can they even ask parents to provide that? And I'm sick of doing that. Why don't you get the bus? I'm not driving you anymore. You know, all those topics. People will go into money conversations when they're frightened. It's like the acceptable social topic you're allowed to talk about. When we're frightened, we're vulnerable. It comes back to, again, I don't feel enough, I feel overwhelmed, I can't cope, I can't manage, I think I'm about to fail, I think I could be humiliated, whatever. There is a story like that underneath it. Now, they can't name it or connect with it themselves. A lot of people have no idea what they're feeling or experiencing, and so they go into their money talk. Can you tell me what your partner's favourite rant about money is? I can tell you, I've heard it many years where the same thing came up over and over again. And after a while, I started to twig. If that conversation is being had about money, that is not what it's about. It is a red herring. Don't buy into the conversation. Say, yes, I understand you're worried about money. If they're having a rational conversation, where you're saying, let's have a look at our budget, and you're calm and you're not distressed and you're not reactive, yes, then by all means, go and have a conversation about money. But if you're frightened and you're agitated and you're angry and you're distressed, then it is not about money. It is that feels socially acceptable. That feels an okay topic. I don't feel silly, particularly for men, about naming my vulnerability here. I can talk about it, about being angry here, and I can blame and say, we've got to start tightening our belts here, and I can start lecturing. It doesn't fix anything. If we talk about what it isn't, what it is never gets addressed. So if you have a partner who likes to talk about money, about how we need to earn more or save more, whatever, and they bring this up at times, say, I hear what you're saying. I get that, and let's talk about that when you're feeling better. What else is worrying you? What else is going on? Because you know you talk about this when you're worried about something else, and I'd rather know what's really going on for you. And just don't buy into it. You know how the script goes. It can go for 45 minutes. You know, you'll say this, he'll say this, she'll say this, whatever. And it ends up the same place it always does. Nowhere. So the many faces of fear. If you're bored, you've disengaged. There's a fear going on. If you're tired, you can be in fear. If you're angry and reactive, you can be in fear. If you're distressed and needy, you are in fear. When we are in fear, we are asking and needing reassurance and support. If we could recognise that for ourselves, we could say to ourselves, it's going to be okay. Break down the fear into something specific. people say, I'm so worried about that, I'm frightened about that, and they don't want to look at it anymore, they avoid. If you could name specifically what you're frightened of, then you could work out a strategy of what to do with it. I'm specifically worried about this. Okay, well, is that likely to happen? Or what could you do to make it safer? A client said to me the other day, but I could lose my job, and she was feeling all anxious. And this went back to a time when she was 12 where her mother had suddenly died. And so whenever she gets to a really vulnerable point, she feels like the world is going to suddenly pull the rug from out of her, like it did when she was 12, when her mother died unexpectedly. And I said, okay, so what would the rug being pulled out unexpectedly be like for you now? What would it be? And she said, it'd be losing my job. I said, well, let's look at that. Are you likely to lose your job? And she wasn't. What could you do to make your position safer? Well, if I put 1 hour a week into doing this and this, my manager would be happier and it would make me even more secure. I said, shall we do that? So that's what she's done. I saw her a fortnight later. How are you feeling? I'm feeling really, really secure. I feel good. She found the specific fear, she addressed it, she took action, and now she's okay. And she knows how to reassure herself. If you're in fear, and we do get in fear because that is human, I get in fear, find out what it is exactly, and then find out ways to reassure yourself, and then say to others, I need a bit of support. Can you help me with